Well, we're going to call it a developing story, Kerry, at this moment, but it could break at any time, and that is why we go to Dave McMenamin, our Cavs reporter, who may have some news about an addition to that Cavs roster. Dave, what can you tell us?
Well, of course, last season, David, the Golden State Warriors took back control of the league by adding a former league MVP in Kevin Durant. And so the Cavs are trying to follow a serve by doing the same thing in trying to acquire former league MVP Derrick Rose. Brian Windhorst and Adrian Wojnarowski have reported that there are initial talks, or actually the talks have moved beyond the initial stages, in order to the Cavs bring in Derrick Rose on a one-year minimum contract worth about $2.1 million. So he can try to be a difference maker as the Cavs try to catch those Warriors.
Okay. Listen, if this is 2010 and the Cavs are acquiring Derrick Rose, this is a huge story. Assess how big of a deal it would be if Derrick Rose is on the Cavs next season.
Well, I think in the grand scheme of things, the biggest part of this deal would be a former league MVP, still relatively young, only 28 years old, is only getting a one-year minimum contract. It speaks to the fall from grace from Derrick Rose. Obviously, it's been injury-riddled career for him, but also there was the uncertainty of his time in New York last year. He went missing for one game, and that caused a bit of a stir. But in terms of the Cavs, I mean, they had very limited assets going into this summer in terms of what they could do, what they could spend. If they're able to convince someone of Derrick Rose's talent, I mean, he did average 18 points per game last year, shot 47% from the field. He can still give you an impact-type player off the bench, presumably. That's a very good acquisition for the Cavs. And so it's not perhaps as big of an acquisition as some of the other teams have done, like Houston this offseason and Boston, but it would certainly be a good thing for the Cavs.
All right, our Cavs reporter Dave McMenamin giving us the very latest that there are serious talks right now between Derrick Rose and the Cavaliers. And yes, he is not the game-changing guard that he was a few years back, but if you take a look, as Dave mentioned, the numbers sort of back on the upswing. In 64 games, Rose averaged 18 a game, shot just over 47% from the floor. That's his best percentage since back in 2009, 2010.